Hey everybody, welcome back to another film of the week. Hope you guys have been enjoying the content on the channel as of late, and we're just heading off to the theater. Gonna be checking out Arthur the King, so hopefully by the time this video comes out, you guys will have known my thoughts on that film. But I had said before on the previous Blind Tuesday is that we might discuss Never Rarely Sometimes Always. I still want to do that, but I need to revisit that film just to refresh my memory a little bit more onto my overall thoughts of the film. So instead, I actually decided to discuss this film because this film has kind of circulated my mind a few times here and there over the years just because of the impression that it left on me. And even now, revisiting the film, the impression that it leaves still. Um, Again, a more recent film, and with a very interesting filmmaker attached to it. That film that we're discussing will be You Were Never Really Here, which was, I believe, written and directed by Lynn Ramsey, who would direct two other notable films. I believe she's only directed three films in her in directing wise. I think she's only directed three films. Those films being Ratcatcher, which I like. I like enough. It's not completely memorable, but good enough. Good enough. And then we need to talk about Kevin, which is again good, but I wouldn't say as memorable. But this one I would say is more of a difference between those two. Um, as I kind of maybe show my hand as to how I feel about this film, but starring Joaquin Phoenix as Joe, who is a uh, who is a man for hire, also a war veteran, and he is as he is by being a man for hire. He's hired on to as they would say in Blade Runner, retire people. Uh, just does what he has to do, and he's very tormented. He's obviously dealing with a lot of past experiences, specifically a lot of abuse, a lot of startling images that he has been previewed to his time in the military, as well as being in a very, very highly abusive environment, specifically with his father. Um, and he takes care of his mother, who, through flashbacks, seems to also be a victim to the sort of trauma that had taken place in his household. And uh, by providing for her mother, he goes out and does the kind of work that he does. It's kind of, well, with her also having dementia, it's like it also plays into the whole secretive nature of his what kind of line of work. So, in the to her, it's kind of left up in the air as to what he actually does. But for him, he does what he does in order to provide for his mother. Um, he's a very suicidal character, always idealizing, death, and trying to make attempts throughout the film. The first film shot of the film is that of him trying to attempt, trying to take his life. And many portions of the film show him very eager to do to do that sort of thing. And at one point, which I think is just a beautiful part of the film, I think just the most beautiful part of the film is when a a certain thing unfolds, a certain point in the story is revealed, and it sets that character temporarily on a path to again to take his life. And it's this beautiful shot of him at a lake, and just basically saying goodbye to a particular figure. You can kind of guess who it is. I just don't want to give it away just because I would like you to experience the film for yourself, but you can kind of piece it together. Um, but um, but in his line of work, he is tasked to get a girl from a senator who has gotten herself into a what it is a child trafficking service. And he gets that, and he gets the girl, and he finds out that the whole thing was compromised, and that there is more. going on than he was led to believe, and now he is left in this dilemma of a moral purpose of whether he is to continue forward to get to find this girl, or to perhaps to just end things and just uh, to move in the direction that he seems to have always have been going anyway. And or like, as you know, with the latter, finding a better purpose, finding a more genuine purpose to keep you afloat and perhaps start you on a path of healing. Um, so I mean, to say that Lim Ramsey is, um, her craftsmanship is just uh really startling. I must say, the way that she frames her characters and just the way that she frames just the overall circumstances, um, it's very haunting and very, um, like there's just a layer of disturbance that is always embedded with even each of her films, and this is no exception. I mean, you could probably tell in just my overall demeanor, my overall voice, I'm a little anxious, and purely because from what the film got out of me, because the best way to describe the film is that it's a horror film. Properly so, it is a horror film by design, by the way that's edited. It's a horror film. It's not a thriller. The anxiety that I'm feeling is more to do with the whole aura that the film is possessing, which is this horrific and disturbance and this commitment to those feelings, um, and completely earnest in what is being set up, specifically with that character that Joaquin Phoenix plays, which, by the way, he plays just greatly. Just another great performance by him. He's always great. So, it's expected to see him so committed and just putting in solid work. But what was really surprising about the film is just just the overall aura that is built. It's, if you've seen Lynn Ramsey's work, it's not completely shocking, but it leaves more of an impression than before. With, like I said, with We Need to Talk About Kevin or Ratcatcher, they're fine, as they stand. They're good pieces of work, and they have that disturbance that Lynn Ramsey always has embedded within her films. But this has that extra pump, that extra emphasis on that sort of feeling, and the overall theme of the film gives it more of that, gives more life to those feelings, that ideas of trauma, the sort of variations of trauma, the emotional bondage that these two characters, that Joaquin Phoenix and this little girl, form through basically quite a distance. It's very vague in how they connect to each other. It's not like that literal connections, like talking to each other. Like, it's quite nonverbal in the expression of the film, um, and a lot to do with just the feeling of the film, the overall aura, the tone, the atmosphere, the sound. Sound plays a huge part in this film, and it also completely gives a perspective to Joe, giving us an impression of who Joe is. The ringing that happens every time when a memory comes back to his mind, representing that of his PTSD, his trauma coming into the forefront. Um, the stark cuts from when he's in one place and a younger version of himself, perhaps being in that same place, or at random, when something is happening and these feelings are bubbling in him, these memories are starting to just fly by in his consciousness. It's very authentic in its representation of trauma. And in that authenticity, there is a layer of tension, a layer of anxiety, and a layer of terror that just rattled me. I was very rattled watching it again, because of just the overall feeling that I get from it. It is a sense of it's dark, it's bleak. It's not a film it has very little room um for for calm, for a sense of calmness and relaxation. There's usually always that sense of urgency, and it plays again to the character that Joaquin Phoenix is playing, um because it is a study of trauma. It is a study of those sort of emotions, and just again the execution, the representation of these ideas. It's a gut punch. It just delivers on all cylinders, and if the feeling that you get from it most times is again just this this bleakness, this sense of dread. It's this darkness that is always there. It's it's not a film that embellishes its ideas or undermines its ideas. It shows them in the most authentic way possible. And like, damn. Like that's probably the best word for it is just damn, you know? Um Hey, so I'm driving to the theater, and I just forgot to mention that there was a comparison that people were making to this movie that I just cannot understand I cannot understand. It's the comparison to Taxi Driver. I have no idea why people compare this to Taxi Driver. No idea why. I think it's the same sort of comparison that people give to like Marriage Story and Kramer versus Kramer. Like, I think people just remember like the third act of those movies and then surmise that they're somehow the whole movie. Like, no. This is very different. Very, very, very different compared to what Taxi Driver was. Taxi Driver, I mean, if you want to say yes, they are a study about psychology and a study of emotional sensibilities, like just overall emotions. But the representations of those emotions and what those emotions are doing to those characters are complete opposites. Travis Bickle is a character that is like, he's a sociopath. He's a fucking maniacal character. Where Joaquin Phoenix's character Joe is like, to some extent, managing his emotions while simultaneously having his breaks, while having these very heavy thoughts on taking his life. It's very different. It's very, very different. So I never understood where that comparison came from for Taxi Driver. Like, just because he goes and like saves a child from a child trafficking uh, uh, services, like that's, you know, like from child traffickers, like really, like that's the comparison. Um, like, or that's where I'm wondering where people are getting that from. So, um, that's just fucking just, I don't know. It's just a little vague. It's again like how people compare Kramer versus Kramer to Marriage Story. It's like, how they're not even remotely close. So I always found that interesting because I've seen people compare it to Taxi Driver, but yeah, I just wanted to plug that in here somewhere just because I was like, so what? Just because she's saved from child traffickers, like that's that's why the film is now somehow, some way Taxi Driver. Like the last part of the fucking movie. No. So the dynamics are different. Jodie Foster and Robert De Niro's dynamic is different than from Joaquin Phoenix and this little girl. So yeah, I don't understand it, um, but yeah. So just wanted to plug that in here somewhere, and yeah. So back to the review, because it just hits you. It doesn't like it doesn't feel artificial by any imagination, just from performances, from the craftsmanship, from the aesthetics. It's just a gorgeous looking film. Um, and by design, it is a horror film. Like, just by the edits, just by how it's cut, the stark contrasts between one scene here to a small cut here, and the ex the the purpose within those cuts. It's almost as if it's like a jump scare, in its intention of how it's cut. Um, and it's good that it chooses to lean in that sort of fashion, because I mean it is a scary thing to deal with, the gravity of trauma, and depending on what that is, um, it's it's not an easy, feeling to live with. And the film, I think, beautifully represents that and shows the real horror that is within trauma, and how the real terror in how one deals with it, and when what it looks like for someone to deal with such heavy emotions, and at the same time idealizing a path towards death and seeing no future for themselves. Like it's it's scary. It's scary in how it represents this character. And thankfully, there is somewhat of a happy ending for this character. It kind of again leaves it on sort of an ambiguous note in that where is Joe going to go from here? I like to think that there is a path towards healing for that specific character. Um, but I think that I think just by craftsmanship, by um, just by how it's delivering. Sorry, I had something just fell in my glasses. Um, just by how it's delivering its emotions, just by how it's delivering it's just its its ideas, it's it's tension filled, it's anxiety inducing, it's horrifying, but it's also very meaningful, performed just greatly. Joaquin Phoenix is just again a powerhouse. He's just excellent in this. Um, it may be to some extent a little simplistic by like once you get the technicalities, once you get just the rhythm of those technicalities, like I said, the little ringing of the ears and these little things here and there, once you pick up on those ideas, which for me were fairly quickly, it might seem a little redundant and it might seem a little hollow in those aspects, but it always reigns back into like it always this feeling that I get from it when I watch the film, this sense of urgency, this sense of anxiety, this sense of fear. Um, like it went away, even if some technicalities might be a little bit what is it might be a little more on the nose, um, but I love this movie. I really really love it. Just from performances, from aesthetics, from overall craftsmanship, from the execution. I love the score by Johnny Greenwood. The score is brilliant. I love the distortion within the music. It's not music that is consistent. It's consistent at points, but only when that character is balanced. And again, it's all in favor towards the study of character, and within that character, that study of his emotions. Um, it's it's tempting to say that it's brilliant, but again, I think that the simplicity within some of its technical features within the audio, how it plays to that character, I think it can be a little on the nose. Um, but I mean, just by just everything else that the film is doing, how it's operating emotionally, um, by performances, by the direction, it's just great. It's just really really solid work here. And I'm very curious to see what Lynn Ramsey does next. Apparently, she's doing another film with Joaquin Phoenix, and if it's anything like this, sign me up. I am very, very interested to see what she does next. Because, man, like, I'm happy I'm gonna go see Arthur the King right now because I need something to calm me down. Because, whew, like, yeah, like we need to talk about Kevin and Ratcatcher. We're fine, but I never walked out of those films feeling a sense of weight or a sense of just uneasiness. This did, and rarely do films nowadays bring that sort of a emotion out of me. The last time I think that happened was for I Saw the Devil, but that was more of like more of a more for again just shock value and just kind of by lenses. It just was kind of very questionable for me. Um, this all feels purposeful and feels authentic. Nothing feels like it's just being played up for dramatic effect. Everything feels in the moment, it feels real. And in that, it's scary, it's terrifying, it's disturbing, and also just really solidly made. So, yeah, highly recommend if you check this, if you can see this. It's on Amazon Prime, so check it out whenever you guys get a chance to. So So yeah, so those are my thoughts on You Were Never Really Here. Also, what a brilliant title. What a brilliant, brilliant title. There's so many ways you can interpret that title by just his literal job, like him trying to be so secretive, not having anyone see him, the overall emotional state that he possesses. Um, his mental state. There's so many ways you can interpret just that title. Just wanted to add that in also. Just a brilliant, brilliant title. I just thought about it when I was like just watching the movie. I was like, this title, like very rarely do titles get to me. That title, fucking brilliant. What a brilliant title. So, but complements the kind of film that we get, which is just very tempting to say brilliant. So, yeah. So those are my thoughts on You Were Never Really Here. I love it. Love this movie. If you guys can check it out, check it out. If you have Amazon Prime, check it out. Just make sure you're in the right mood. So, or you're gonna watch something like Arthur the King after this, because it's not a happy movie, but you know, it doesn't take anything away from it. It is so good, so good. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on You Were Never Really Here. Let me know your thoughts on You Were Never Really Here in the comment section below, and of course your thoughts on Lynn Ramsey in general as a filmmaker. Are you guys looking forward to Polaris? That's their next film with Joaquin Phoenix. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's gonna be it for me, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in, and until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.